We know why customers need it. We know why they want it from you. We know that we need to understand and be comfortable within the bank to be ready for those customers. And now we're going to talk a little bit about what happens with those customers. Everything from a best practice to where do we submit, how do we submit, what do we use, what do we do with it, all of these different things that we utilize to help get our customers what they need from you with our help. So as we start that, it's literally best practices. Jay mentioned always asking for statements, always having those conversations with customers. But before we do that, we actually have to identify a customer. What's a customer look like? What's a referral look like? We talked about a couple different options so far. The really bad answer is anybody that's open for business, right? And I've talked about that before. If you're accepting payments, 99% of the time it should be or is electronic. We know our cardholders want it to be electronic. So if you're not doing it, you're losing out on that potential. But we need to figure out a way to look at every opportunity. Is it strictly new account openings? Is it our current deposit customer? Is it friends and family? Is it all of the above? And the answer is yes. I mean, it really is anybody that is selling a good or service. Now, depending on our comfort level, depending on the training that we've gone through, maybe I'm starting with my friends and family because it's an easy conversation. Or maybe I'm past that, and maybe I'm going to go. And I'm really intrigued by the 60 to 80% of revenue that we're losing from new business account or from existing business accounts that we're not servicing. Maybe I'm going to start there. Maybe I'm going to take it upon myself to look at our top 50. Our top 50 business customers, weed out the ones that are using our program, and then look at the remaining ones and say, you know what, I'm going to reach out to them because I know 57% of the time, if somebody asks them about merchant services and they switch, they're going to open an account there. And now I'm at risk for losing one of my top 50 customers. So maybe that's where I start. Or maybe I've got this. I know what's going on. I've heard Ron talk long enough. I can go out and talk to anybody about anything, and we're ready to go. Those are our new customers. We identified them. How do we talk to them? What do we do? How do we start that process? And again, it's going to be different for everybody in the room, how comfortable I feel. If I ask Kenny, how are we talking to a customer? It's going to be different than how Chris is talking to a customer. It's going to be different than how Jim's talking to a customer because we all have different levels of comfort. So that engagement's there. As we talked about in the previous session about being prepared, it's our job to make sure that from tellers to mid-level to managers to loan officers to executives know how to talk to customers. And I mention executives because we very often overlook a specific set of potential customers, and it's our board members. If our board members are business owners and they're either using our program or not using our program, it's very telling. What better endorsement for your merchant services program than a member of your board entrusting their business with the program that you're using? So if we don't have buy-in from the board, maybe that's a conversation we have. Hey, we've got this. I mean, and that's one of those scenarios where, okay, maybe the pricing's a little better. We're not necessarily worried about earning a lot of revenue there, because in that case, it's not about the revenue. It's about the overall message it sends that 3 of our 5 board members are using our program. And the reason the other 2 aren't is because they don't take credit cards and this guy's brother does his processing. So it's that sort of thing. But if we don't know how to ask the question, we're never going to know that. So tools that we've developed through our partners, whether it is I need to know how to ask the question because I don't know anything about merchant services and I don't feel comfortable just talking about it, whether it is I can ask a question but I can't answer anything that comes back to me, so I need to have some type of help with that. We have put together some things. Is everybody here familiar with the dashboard. Has everybody seen the dashboard that you have as an option? Okay, that is a tool that we developed mainly out of selfishness, I think, because we knew we couldn't be in front of you like this all the time. Yours is very valuable. Community banks, we're wearing 10, 12 different hats. We can't get to everybody, even remotely, on the web all the time. So we wanted to put something together to give you a one-stop shop, if you will. So whether it's information that we're trying to get out to you, whether it is referral entry, whether it is a list of products and services in the marketing section, that's what it's there for. It is our 24/7 merchant services availability for you, if you will. And a couple of the pieces in there are specifically focused for helping with that question. There is a help guide. I think it's in the merchant ad section. So the merchant ad is going to be something we're leaving behind. So I don't necessarily have to talk about it. I could just basically say, hi, Mr. Potential Customer, here's some stuff on merchant services. Or, hey, existing bank customer, did you know we have a product here? And it doesn't have to be as painful or as expensive as you thought. So that's the nonverbal method, let's say. We want to mail that out. We want to email it out. We also have a couple pieces in there that will literally walk you through how to ask the question or what question to ask and what the starter question is going to be. There's dialogue based on that particular question. So if I get this answer, it's going to be this. If I get that answer, it's going to be this. And then the other piece to that is, well, what happens when I get questions? And while we'd love to give you every single question that comes back, I mean, it would be too many to list, but we tried to come up with a handful that are usually asked. Can I reprogram my equipment? Do you have a contract? Is it expensive? What happens? What do I need to do to get going? Those are tools that we've provided that we would go over in the training to say, this is how we do this, right? This is how we talk to a customer. At the end of the day, it comes down to one simple phrase, and we talked about it last year, and we ran it as a big promotion last year, and it's literally just ask. Just ask the question. Have you thought about merchant services? Can we help you with your merchant services program? And that starts the process, right? So we've identified the customer now because we've asked that question. If we've done everything that we've talked about so far, and we're at this point, we should be confident enough. Again, any level in the bank, we should be confident enough to ask that question. And when we ask that question, the information that you can gain in that conversation, which is just a you and I kind of conversation about their business, is going to give you way more information about their business and their needs than, do you need this? Do you need that? Scripted questions work to an extent, but you're not going to know the customer at that point. And not every conversation can be that. You don't have time that. Not every conversation warrants a 20-minute dialogue. But the more you know about your customer, the more times you do this, the more likely we are to have that solid conversation and then have that turn into, yes, you know what? Let's see what we have to do. So we've had the conversation. We talked to the customers. And now we need to know what to do with it. Is it just a straight referral and I shoot it over to FiNet and we handle it and we keep you updated? Is it, okay, I'm going to take a little more information. I'm going to make a pretty good notes section. I'm going to put that into the dashboard when I submit the referral. Or is it, hey, Ron, I've got XYZ customer. Looks like they're pretty competitive on the rates from what I can see. Let's see what we can do. Send it over to me. I'll talk to them, let you know what they say, and then when we need technical stuff, I'll get back to you. I may or may not know the equipment they have. Maybe Beth can get involved if we have to do a demo, we have to do a training, or we get asked some questions. But that starts, that's our next step in that process. And then from there, it's getting it to us. And, the easiest way for us, well, it's not the only, is right there on that dashboard. That was one of the primary reasons why we established it, was to give you a nice, quick, short, simple, easy way to submit that referral. And again, if that's all you're doing is submitting the referral, boom, you press the button, it goes off to the sales rep, the clock starts. And by the clock starting, I mean we are on the clock with an internal guideline of reaching out to that customer, usually the same business day. We make that phone call. If we don't get them, we try them again. Somewhere between that second and third attempt, if we're not getting them, we're reaching back out to you to say, haven't heard from Mr. Customer. Do you see him in the branch? Do you have an email? Do you have a phone number? Maybe somebody else. We can go ahead and do that. The secondary thing when we hit that submit button that it does, and I'm kind of overlapping here, is it will automatically submit that information into our data management system. Now, we use that data management system for pretty much anything. It was designed by a former banker for the merchant services industry. So the tabs, the research capability, the information that's in the system has both aspects in mind. It was the mind of a banker with the needs of a merchant services industry. So really, we can report, we can track pretty much anything. And as we're working that process from the start of the referral to a decision date and beyond, automatic updates are going to come out. Some of you have already seen them. We reached out, we talked to the customer, fire off an email in the notes section, let you guys know what's going on. This is just as important as the training and education, is to know what happens to that referral after I send it in. It's great to say we have a partner, we love FiNet, they're fantastic at what they do, but we don't know what happens after the referral comes in. It wasn't going to benefit anybody. This is a huge break for us. This is going back a ways, but we used to send a literal Excel spreadsheet at the end of every month. Here's a referral you guys sent in. Here's the process. Well, obviously things change and new systems come out, and this allows us to do it real time. So as we're talking to your customers and finishing that conversation, we're submitting that information over to you and updating our system. That's going to allow us to track this promotion that we're doing. It's going to allow us to track any incentives you want to run through part of the referral incentive that you have as part of your agreement. Whether you want to give it to the branch, whether you want to give it to the individual, we can track all of that information. It really is a great tool for us, and then by default for you guys to be able to utilize. As we go through that process, each step a sales rep is going to make that note. And they could be anything from spoke to the customer, sent them a proposal, completed the analysis, sent out paperwork, additional information, approved, declined, withdrawn, those sort of things. Some things that we may not know or we may not think about in the process. There is an underwriting process involved. So it's not like we can just take any customer off the street, submit an application form, and they're going to get approved. Generally, because of our relationships with you, and therefore those relationships translate up to the processor level, we have a much higher closure percentage than most companies because our processors know our relationships are with you guys. And that if you don't want to bank somebody, you're generally not sending them to us. Matter of fact, I've had conversations with some of you in the room both ways about, hey, we're not going to bank this person. I'm just kind of talking out loud. So if you can't get them approved for merchant services, nobody's really going to complain on our end. And then I've made a phone call to say, hey, we kind of found something here that you may want to take a deeper look, and you ended up not banking them. So there's things that way. Even though it's a no liability program, we still try to look out for everybody and vice versa. So that being said, there's still industries that we can't get approved. Some of them are pretty obvious, online gun sales, things of that nature. Some of them are restricted where we need a little more information. The easiest ones to explain there are high volume accounts. You get over $75,000 a month in processing. You get over $500,000 up into $1 million a year. They're going to ask for some type of financial information on the business. I say that now, and we generally have a discussion with customers about that at the time of the application. Not that we're going to ask for financials right out of the gate, but we bring it up because we find it's easier to have a preliminary conversation than to say, oh, that's pending and I need your information. And then it's a much harder conversation. And the reason behind it is because the question we get from customers is, I don't understand. I'm applying to accept credit cards, not for a credit card. Why do you need my financial information? Well, because of the way the industry works, as cardholders, we're protected for, in most cases, 180 days, in some cases longer, which means every transaction we use with our credit card is protected, and we can question. Therefore, underwriting is going to look at a business and say, is this business viable? Can they support what they're asking for in credit solutions? Because the bank's not on the hook, FiNet's not on the hook, the processor's on the hook. So they're going to look at it and say, you're asking for $200,000 a month in processing, maybe there's a little bit of future delivery, and you got $1,500 in the bank. That may be a tougher conversation. Sometimes we can call you and say, you know what, can you give me a generic letter of assets? Hey, the customer's been with the bank for 15 years, they're a customer in good standing, they have X number of dollars in their account. They have two other something like that. And maybe that works in lieu of the financials. Sometimes we just need the financials, depending on how big the customer is. And then, we do just flat out get declines because of credit reasons. I have a sub 600 credit rating, not me, but the individual applying. Maybe I need a cosigner. Things like that. So there are accounts that we can't get approved, but we will do whatever we can. We have options for that. If it doesn't work in the first case, we can go to the second and third option that we have. Ultimately, there's still a no sometimes, but we do have options for higher risk. We don't have to shy away from anybody, and we don't look at any merchant and kind of look the other way, because you don't know who's walking in your door to open an account. We look at it the same way. So whether they're doing $100 million a year, or they're just open for an ice cream stand over the summer, or I'm opening for a craft show for one day, those are merchants that we will board, that we can board. When you flip to the other side at the $100 million, it all comes down to what they're using. The volume that they're processing, assuming everything looks good financially, it's still a credit card transaction. It's not like they're handing me a stack of ones for $1 million transaction. It's a credit card transaction. And it could be as quick as 4 hours we sign a deal. It could be as long as 2 years, right? You never know what somebody's up against when they're looking at that particular piece. Sometimes it's, I forgot, I open on Saturday, it's Thursday, how quick can you get me set up? I don't promise rushes, but I say there's always an exception to every rule. So that we can do. So if customers come in and, oh my God, I forgot, or oh, I'm looking at this, or whatever, let us know. But are you helping yourselves with the program? It goes back to expectations and reality, right? If we want to earn X number of dollars a month, but we're not sending any referrals, kind of hard to meet that expectation. If we're sending referrals on people that walk in the door, okay, that's a start. But are we marketing the program? Do we have any signage? Do we have it listed on our website? The attention span for most people looking at something on the internet is about 10 seconds. So if we don't have what they're looking for in 10 seconds, they're moving on. So if we make something hard for them to find, they're not going to put the effort into it. If I'm window shopping and I want to see what Community Bank has, can I find it? Is the pitch enough to keep me there once I find it? And is it enough for me to hit inquire? We have a web page, a web link that you could put right on your site to promote it. Is there something inside the bank that we could put up? I know when we talked about Just Ask last year, we had some partners ask us for electronic format of it because they wanted to put on their digital boards inside the bank. So next to the weather and the quote of the day and the this day in history, there's, have you thought about merchant services? Is it something that we could take back to our staff and say, okay, we talked about merchant services. I just came back from this seminar and we learned a bunch of good stuff, and we really need to get everybody on board here. So here's what we're going to do. Promotions are a great way to get buy-in from the employees. Everybody likes to win something. Sometimes it's just about the competition. And we do that once, And then it's, this merchant service thing wasn't as hard as I thought it was. It really was as simple as all I had to do was ask the question. I put it in the dashboard and FiNet did the rest. It wasn't something that I really had to worry about. When we look at it, it is probably one of the most important cogs in the wheel of any business. Right behind the business checking account, 99% of customers are taking electronic payments. They need to be able to accept it. And we know they want to get it from you. We have to help collectively those merchants realize that everything they need is right there within their community bank. So much so that they call and ask for a product that isn't even a financial product. Oh, you know what? You guys did everything else for me. I thought you may have a napkin vendor. I say none of this is meant for you guys to become experts, right? You don't need to quote sales. You don't need to know customer service. But at the end of the day, they're your customers. So where are they going first? They're going to call you. They're going to come to you. So you guys have to be comfortable enough with us to be able to call customer service, to call your BD rep, Holly, myself, to call Debbie as a sales manager, Michelle as a service manager. Or if it's a product question, to reach out to Beth and say, guys, I need some help, right? Don't be afraid to ask the question. It's okay to say, I don't know. So when somebody asks a question of you of merchant services, it's okay to say, I don't know. Let me get you with the team, or let me find the answer for you. Because a lot of times my fear is somebody's going to ask me a question, I don't know the answer, so I'm just not going to approach the subject. Well, I think for obvious reasons, we all know we need to approach the subject. Revenue, this kind of revenue, for the amount of effort that's needed at a minimal basis is fantastic. I mean, yeah, I'm not making thousands of dollars on a merchant, every merchant. But if we have 1,000 merchants making $10, that we're making $10 on, right? It's a numbers game. The more times we ask the question, the more referrals we're going to get. The more referrals we get, the more opportunity we have to get them approved. The more approvals, the more revenue we share. It's that cycle. And that's the process. It's literally understanding what we need to do, understanding where the merchants are and what to ask them, knowing what to do with them once we find them, and then once we find them, either handing it over to us or working with us in a way that we've talked about that best suits that particular deal. And it could be different each time. Hey, John called, he's opening a Dairy Queen for the summer again. Just set him up, let me know how it goes, let me know if you need anything. Lisa called in, they're ready to move their 5 locations. Can you guys come out? We want to talk merchant services. We want to make sure everybody's on the same page. Big account for the bank. Let's do this together and figure out what we need to do. Let's ask every business account that we open about merchant services. Let's look at every new business relationship to come in as a potential customer. And absolutely, we need to start looking at existing business customers. We cannot have that opportunity for somebody else to come in and steal that account. Along with that, you are 60 to 70% more likely to sell to an existing customer than you are to sign a new customer. And we already know that more often than not, 80% of our business customers aren't using our program. So we're more likely to sell to 80% of our business customers than the next 100 business customers that walk in to open a new account. If you have one account, one product at a bank, you're likely to stick around on average for 18 months. If we add a second account, whether it's merchant or a second product, whether it's merchant or remote capture or ACH, that jumps up to 4 years. By the time we get to that third piece, which merchant services is somewhere in there, or it should be, we're out to 6 years. Now think about that. At 6 years, and if we're doing what we're supposed to do, it's probably going to be longer because we treat our customers the right way. We know our customer's name. They're not number 3755B, and if they leave, we go on to C. So our customers are going to stay longer than those averages because of the way we treat those customers. And then when they call and ask us about a napkin vendor, we may actually pick up the phone and look for a napkin vendor because that's how we treat our customers, right?